Waters are fast-moving.
Unlike other big rallies,
Bit earlier at about 7 a.m., a group from the Coast Guard.
Welcome to #PH Vote 2013.
Today on Rappler, update on the pork barrel scam. The Justice Department will file cases against a new group of lawmakers. The Philippine government identifies the Filipina kidnapped in Sabah by the Abu Sayyaf. And South Korea successfully test fires a missile allegedly capable of taking on neighbor North Korea. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. A new group of lawmakers will be charged for illegal diversion of the Priority Development Assistance Fund, or PDAF, to bogus projects. On Friday, Justice Secretary Laila de Lima says a third group of cases will be filed before the Office of the Ombudsman. De Lima refuses to say how many lawmakers nor to name them. She says the cases still involve alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Limnapoles, but a new set of lawmakers will be implicated. The pork barrel scam is considered the biggest and most explosive corruption scandal to hit Philippine politics in recent history. It involves diverting discretionary funds to fake non-governmental organizations, all this made possible with the collusion of lawmakers. The Justice Department's announcement came as the Ombudsman files a resolution to charge Napoles and Senators Bong Revilla, Juan Ponce Enrile, and Jinggoy Estrada with plunder for allegedly receiving kickbacks from the multi-million peso PDAF scam. Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago says she does not mean to undermine the Bangsamoro peace deal by calling it unconstitutional. In a letter to Chief Negotiator Miriam Coronel Ferrer, Santiago explains her critique of the final peace agreement between the Philippine government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF. She says, quote, "My interest is not to scuttle the agreement, but to ensure that it will be able to stand scrutiny in the Supreme Court. I'm also engaged in forward thinking about the eventual consequences of the framework agreement." Ferrer says she prefers to meet with Santiago instead of addressing the criticism in the media, quote, "in bits and pieces." Santiago earlier said the deal was unconstitutional because it creates the Bangsamoro as a sub-state instead of a mere autonomous region, diminishing Philippine sovereignty. The Bangsamoro Agreement aims to end decades of armed conflict in Mindanao and concludes 17 years of negotiations between the government and the MILF. The next step in the peace process is a submission to Congress of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, a measure formally creating the autonomous political entity. The Philippines identifies the Filipina kidnapped in Sabah. The government suspects the kidnappers are the Abu Sayyaf. In a statement released Friday, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, says the abducted Filipina is Marcelita Dayawan, 40 years old. She is a member of the staff at the Singamata Reef Resort in Semporna, Sabah, where the kidnapping took place on Wednesday. Dayawan was kidnapped along with Gao Huayun, a 29-year-old Chinese tourist, between 10:30 and 11 p.m. The DFA says Philippine and Malaysian officials, quote, "are closely and actively working together towards the speedy resolution of the case." The Abu Sayyaf is believed to be behind the worst terror attacks in Philippine history, as well as kidnapping for ransom, often involving foreigners. It was founded in the 1990s, reportedly with seed money from Al-Qaeda's mastermind Osama bin Laden, coursed through his brother-in-law. The group's strongholds are Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, and Basilan. The Abu Sayyaf is still holding other foreign hostages, including 2 well-known European birdwatchers kidnapped in February of 2012. The government apologizes for the inconvenience to commuters on Metro Rail Transit Line 3. During a press briefing Friday, presidential spokesman Edwin Lacerda says problems with the MRT can only be addressed by long-term solutions such as buying new coaches. This will take time, Lacerda says, quote, "The government cannot promise a smoother commute for those taking the Metro Rail Transit 3 in the near future and can only give an apology for the inconvenience being experienced by the public." Commuters forming long lines morning and night are a common sight at MRT stations. Recently, the railway system suffered malfunctions that caused temporary shutdowns. It's nearly 5 months after Super Typhoon Haiyan, or Yolanda, yet up to 130,000 survivors still live in tents. This is roughly about 28,000 families. It's more than half the population of Tacloban in Leyte, the city worst hit by Yolanda. Social Welfare Secretary Dinky Soliman calls this the biggest challenge faced by the government. She says the government hopes to finish transitional shelters by June. Soliman promises the transitional shelters will meet international standards after the government was criticized about substandard bunkhouses. Affected residents are expected to stay in transitional shelters for up to 2 years. The government plans to finish building permanent, sturdier houses by 2015. These transitional shelters must withstand an average of 20 typhoons annually. United Nations Development Chief Helen Clark says moving Yolanda survivors into decent shelters remains, quote, a compelling need. A female photojournalist is killed in eastern Afghanistan Friday. The Associated Press says its photographer, Anja Niedringhaus, died when an Afghan policeman shot her and AP colleague, reporter Kathy Gannon. The attack took place in the town of Khost near the Afghan-Pakistan border. Gannon was wounded twice and is receiving medical attention. This is the most recent in a series of journalists' casualties in Afghanistan. In March, Agence France Presse's Sardar Ahmad and Swedish journalist Nils Horner were shot dead in Kabul by Taliban gunmen on separate occasions. On Friday, South Korea says it successfully test-fired a new ballistic missile allegedly capable of taking on its neighbor, North Korea. The launch was carried out March 23, 2 days before North Korea test-fired 2 missiles allegedly capable of striking Japan. The announcements likely to fuel current tensions on the Korean peninsula. On Monday, North and South Korea fired hundreds of live shells into each other's territorial waters. A month earlier, relations between the two countries were relatively stable. In February, the rivals had rare, high-level talks and held a reunion for families divided by the Korean War in 1950. But that mood soon soured, and in recent weeks, North Korea conducted a series of rocket and missile tests. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un warns the situation was very grave and vowed to, quote, thoroughly crush what he called a U.S.-engineered policy of hostility. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton ran into Filipino boxer Manny Pacquiao on the American late-night talk show Jimmy Kimmel Live on Wednesday. Pacquiao was promoting his fight with Timothy Bradley on April 12. Clinton praised the 8th Division champion, a congressman in the province of Sarangani. I think he's a great guy and a great role model, and he's very strong and honest. He's already in the Philippine Parliament, and I hope he goes right on up the ladder. Pacquiao answered, right now I'm focused on my position as a congressman. Kimmel went on to comment that Pacquiao and his wife Jinky could become a power couple like the Clintons. Turkey lifts its controversial ban on Twitter Thursday. This comes a day after the country's top court said the ban breaches the right to free speech. Telecoms Authority TIB removed court orders enforcing the Twitter ban from its website, and one of its officials say there's been work to lift the ban on Twitter. Twitter welcomes the ruling and tweets, "We welcome this constitutional court ruling and hope to have Twitter access restored in Turkey soon." Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Friday criticizes the lifting of the ban. He says, "We are of course bound by the constitutional court verdict, but I don't have to respect it. I don't respect this ruling." Erdogan ordered the block due to, quote, unmitigated lies on Twitter and other social media networks claiming widespread graft. His party won the recently concluded elections, seen as a referendum on Erdogan's rule. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 8, a U.S. Senate panel votes to declassify parts of its report on the Central Intelligence Agency's interrogation program during the George W. Bush administration. The report concludes the CIA misled the Justice Department, Congress, and the public by inflating the effectiveness of so-called enhanced interrogation and detention practices. Civil rights groups celebrate the announcement as proof that embracing torture was neither moral nor effective in getting actionable intelligence. At number 9, tech company Mozilla CEO Brendan Eich resigns after sparking outrage over his donation to an anti-gay marriage campaign. In 2008, Ike donated $1,000 to California's Proposition 8 campaign that sought to make same-sex marriage illegal. Ike steps down Thursday after the gay community protests his appointment. In a statement, Mazilia says, "Equality is necessary for meaningful speech, and you need free speech to fight for equality. Figuring out how to stand for both at the same time can be hard." And at number 10, David Letterman, the longest-serving late-night host in American television history, will be retiring next year. He announces his retirement Thursday on, where else? His Late Show. The 66-year-old Letterman's been a late-night staple since 1982. Letterman's home network, CBS, says he, quote, has given television audiences thousands of hours of comedic entertainment, the sharpest interviews on late night, and brilliant moments of candor and perspective around national events. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. For our social media post of the day, would you post a selfie after sex? Well, apparently quite a lot of people do. The hashtag after sex is the latest Instagram trend among couples on the photo sharing app. For these couples, there's no such thing as oversharing. Most of the photos aren't too risque, some are even artistic. The trend even sparked several memes. Look at this. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have affected our readers and viewers the most emotionally. These 10 stories have gotten the most number of votes on their mood meter. If you take a look today, it's interesting, the story, Bill Clinton hopes for a Pacquiao presidency. You see, interestingly enough, 10% angry, 10% don't care, 17% are amused, and 50% are annoyed. Let's not forget this, 5% happy and 4% afraid. That annoyed is mirrored in the story that's gotten the most number of votes, our social media post of the day. Would you ever take an hashtag after sex selfie? You have 4% sad, 7% inspired, 18% amused, and 60% annoyed. That bringing out the mood of the day. Today, most people are annoyed. But wait, hold on. Let's take a look. It is Friday, and even though the mood meter says annoyed, let's end the week on a happy note. Let's look at happy, and it is bright green. These are the stories. If you click happy on the new mood navigator that was rolled out this week, you will get a list of the top 10 stories that have made Rappler's viewers and audience, readers, happy. Story that's gotten the most number of votes, Eraserheads coming full circle. 5% inspired, 89% happy. I'll leave you with the happy mood. That is Rappler's newscast for today, Friday, April 4th, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.